Welcome to the Browns Creek area of the San Isabel National Forest, located just outside of Buena Vista, Colorado. That's right, they pronounce it Buena Vista. That's how they adopted it way back in the 1800s when they named the city, but otherwise, you could just call it BV. This particular area is very easy to access and has loads of free, dispersed camping. But keep in mind, you're likely to not be alone in this area. This particular September morning dawned cool and cloudy. Well, I'd almost call it cold. I think we were all pulling on winter hats and gloves. But our destination today was likely to be even colder. Today, we were planning to drive through Saint Elmo, up over Tincup Pass to Tincup. Rachel was especially excited about driving this route today. Why? Well, several years earlier in 2020, he and Taylor had tried to drive this route with his Jeep at the time. It was a little early in the season and they encountered so many snowbanks that they had to turn around. So today was his chance for redemption. It's a 17-mile drive from the main road to Saint Elmo along easy and scenic roads. Many of the less conventional residents of Saint Elmo will be very happy to see you, especially if you bring them a snack from the local store. In 1871, a few prospectors settled in this particular area looking for silver veins. By 1875, they had discovered the richest silver vein in the area, and they named it the Mary Murphy Mine. The town site was laid out in 1880 and originally known as Forest City. The post office, however, refused to accept that name, as Forest City, California had already claimed it. This new city was then named Saint Elmo, likely after a romantic novel that was being read by one of the founders. Within 6 months, Saint Elmo boasted 2 sawmills, a smelter, concentrator, 3 hotels, 5 restaurants, and several stores. Soon thereafter, they added a surveyor, a jeweler, an assayer, an attorney, a drugstore, a meat market, several saloons, a feed store, a blacksmith, a clothing store, a city hall, a post office, a firehouse, 2 banks, a newspaper, and even their own rail spur. After an 1890 fire destroyed all of the businesses on the south side of Main Street, followed soon thereafter by the Silver Panic of 1893, this town greatly diminished and never flourished again. Today, Saint Elmo is on the National Register of Historic Places and a very worthwhile stop for tourists. The track over Tincup Pass leaves from the west end of Saint Elmo, travels not quite 13 miles over the pass and down the other side past Mirror Lake until it ends at the small hamlet of Tincup. The track over Tincup Pass is a moderate trail, rated at between a 4 and a 5 out of 10 for difficulty. It reaches an elevation of 12,154 feet at the pass. This track initially started as a supply wagon route between Tincup and Saint Elmo back in 1881. It meanders through the alpine forests along the North Fork of Chalk Creek as it makes its way slowly upward towards the Continental Divide. A capable 4-wheel drive vehicle can complete this track in 2 to 3 hours. Well, unless you have somebody like me along, because then you do a lot of stopping to take those pictures, get new video, and fly the drone. In case you're curious where the name Tincup came from, you can thank 18-year-old prospector James Taylor for that. Why? Well, legend has it that Taylor, one of the first to settle and prospect in the area, brought back his gold dust in a tin cup. The current town of Tincup was initially named Virginia City when it was incorporated in 1880. But that post office, well, they didn't care for that name because there were 2 states that already had a Virginia City. To avoid postal confusion, The city was then reincorporated in 1882 as Tincup. You might notice that we drive a lot with our top open, even when it's cold. Why? Well, that's the best way to get some pictures like this. Or to be able to stand up on that front seat and get pictures like this. The September morning we drove this pass called for rain, but we'd been really lucky, seeing a lot of sunshine through the clouds that morning, until it caught up with us when we stopped for lunch. At that point, we found ourselves showered not with rain, but with snow. Thankfully, that snowfall and the subsequent rain that came after it didn't dampen our spirits for very long. The clouds broke open again, and we could see down the valley as we made the final push up through the alpine tundra. Yeah, I see it over the other ridges. Oh, there she comes. Once you leave that pass behind, you'll find yourself leaving the San Isabel National Forest and entering the Gunnison National Forest. This part of the trail is steep, rocky, and rough, and you do find a couple of sections with rather large rocks that almost caused us to bottom out, so it might be a touch more technical than the other side. Bill was grateful that we were coming down this side because it made the drive easier. And at this point, you're past that one narrow shelf road. About 1.3 miles down from the pass, you'll find an intersection. This is the intersection where you can choose to stay on the Tincup Pass route or go to the right and take the old Tincup Pass route. The old Tincup Pass route is approximately half a mile long, and it saves about a half a mile of trail, but it is significantly more challenging than the main route. The old Tincup Pass route also requires that you get an OHV permit from the state of Colorado. We chose to go left and avoid the rock garden on that route. About 3.5 miles down from the pass, you'll finally come across Mirror Lake. Mirror Lake has a small national forest campground including 10 first-come, first-served campsites. This beautiful lake and the adjacent East Willow Creek are very popular with fishermen. Brown trout, rainbow trout, and kokanee salmon can be found in these waters. I found out something pretty interesting about those kokanee salmon when I was looking up their pronunciation. First of all, nobody seems to agree on how to pronounce the word, but the fishermen I saw, they pronounced it kokanee, so I'm going to go with that. The second thing that I found fascinating is that a kokanee salmon is actually a sockeye salmon who got stuck in fresh water and couldn't escape. If they were able to escape that freshwater prison and get back to the saltwater, they too would grow as big as a regular sockeye. Be aware that when you choose to drive along Mirror Lake, you may or may not find this road above the water. Many times during the year, it's completely flooded. Once you leave Mirror Lake behind, you'll find that Forest Service road has vastly improved. From here all the way into Tincup, the road is your typical, graded, fairly smooth Forest Service road. Both Tincup and Saint Elmo are often described as ghost towns, but both of these small, historic towns actually have several year-round residents, as well as many seasonal residents. Make sure you plan ahead if you're visiting one of these places, because they don't have a lot of services. You may find a seasonal cafe or small store, but don't expect gasoline. There are several roads that lead out of Tincup, one going north to Taylor Park, and several going south, including one over Napoleon Pass, and the one we were planning on taking, over Cumberland Pass. I hope you'll join us then. Thanks for watching. Now go out and find your own adventure.